One thing is very important in my view is that we need to stay open-minded and always open for new learning and changes. I think change is constant here. I'm quite often signing up on mentoring relationships because I'm learning so much from mentoring myself. Just talking to a younger generation, talking to other colleagues, maybe from other units, also internally, but also externally. I'm sometimes working with NGOs and I'm being part of a mentoring program, and that's always a learning opportunity for me.
Hey Andrea, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm very good. And you?
I'm good. I feel like every time I speak to you, I feel like I'm in your well-being retreat. Like where your background's so like zen. And is that by
I
design?
like to keep it this way at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish my background was as my one's just chaos behind me at home. Like I wish it was
Oh, okay.
organized and yeah, it's not as good.
I really need this space to be for me there and support me as well, in my
Yeah.
well-being as well, because I have a busy life, as you can imagine, and you
Hmm.
too. And therefore, it's always good to have a calm environment around
Love
as
it.
much as possible.
As much as it can be, yeah. It can never be fully. Do you work from home full time now or like hybrid? Like what's the current setup?
It's hybrid. It's hybrid. I'm actually in a very lucky situation because the company allows you to kind of choose as you wish
Okay.
to work. So I'm going into the office time to time. Most of the time, I try to network there, keep the relationship with our local teams. But I'm also in a global position, working a lot with the US and India as well. So therefore, my working hours are just, very different to the normal working hours, and therefore I prefer to work from home as well a lot.
Yeah. You don't want to be sitting in the office waiting to speak to someone on the East Coast.
Exactly.
Like 10 p.m.
Exactly.
You're sitting in the office at like 8 p.m. But like when,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, anyway, especially with a global role, like it makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
But
On
I
that,
think Nokia overall is
yeah.
very supportive of the leaders and the employees deciding how they're gonna work with each other and what's the best way for them to work. And I'm a single mom. I think we were just
Yes.
raising on that at some point. And for me, it's really easy to integrate my work and my life into
Mm-hmm.
the days.
Yeah, and that goes to show that it because and I'm not talking for you, but if you didn't have that flexibility, you probably wouldn't be at a company like Nokia, right? Or you
Yeah,
probably so it is something which is super important, and you're missing out on a huge pool of talent if you don't
absolutely.
have that, and you're definitely going to lose people. uh,
Absolutely. I agree so much with you because, it's important to be also in the office time to time
yeah, I
because
agree.
personal relationships are important. But having this flexibility that you decide and you can really design your workday, that's a huge plus.
Yeah. Well, I know we didn't plan on asking this, but it just came to mind. Like, what would you say is like the biggest challenge of being, a global head of people, not in a global organizations, whilst balancing that as a single mom?
Oh God. It's it's probably that you are on your own. Okay, you can, hire some help, but actually you are on your own. So if something is happening, then I need to jump, usually and need to find a solution for that very, very quickly. But on the other hand, I have to say also, the colleagues are very understanding. So if there is a possibility to move some of the meetings because of that, then that's possible in my role at least, you know. And and sometimes also, you need to wake up very early in the morning, but also you are having late evening calls. So that can be kind of a stretch. But I think it's manageable if you are thinking about trying to do it in a way that you are also giving yourself some time off in some of the evenings, and the colleagues are also cooperating with that, then that's also manageable.
Yeah, I love that. Like I told you before, my mum raised us four kids on her
Mm.
own, and I don't even know how she did it even to this day. But creating boundaries and
Mm.
systems and the support system around you, like you've done, is you have to do that, right? But no matter how much you do that, like you said, you might be up late, but you're still getting up at 7 a.m. when your kid wakes up, right? Like, and that's
Absolutely. And you have to kind of take her to school.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a must have. But it's also teaches you to kind of, you know, build
yeah.
structures. I do think that I changed a lot as a leader. For example, when I became a mom, I became far more structured, far more focused. I
Hmm.
tried to be very efficient with my time. I tried to look for simplicity and trying to see, how I can do things more efficiently and more simple
Yeah.
in my everyday
Well,
life.
let's face it, like you kind of have to, right? Like in order for it to be sustainable and not burn out and that you do have that quality time, it doesn't just happen.
Yeah,
Like I say it to my
exactly.
wife all the time, like, and we have to schedule most of what we do in our lives and create structure, which to other people may seem too rigid. Like, oh, you schedule date night?
Yeah, exactly. You have
I'm
to.
like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we're busy, so like, if we don't be intentional about making that time, we just won't. And we've had that, in our relationship before, where it's been months and we haven't really spent that much quality time because she's building her business. I'm doing what I'm doing with HR leaders. We've got our, 6-year-old daughter, Robin, and it just things just don't happen, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that. I love that. So currently global head of people at Nokia. But give on a bit of the background to the role and sort of your current
Yeah,
focus
yeah.
areas, and then we can jump
So
in.
I'm working in one of the business groups called Cloud and Network Services, and I'm the global head of HR for the product and engineering unit. It's approximately 6,000 people across the board. Um, Very interesting times, going through some transformations, new product lines, the way we are working is going to be changing as well. So it's really exciting, but also very kind of, rapid work times, long working hours because of that. But as you just said before, if you are not busy, then it makes you wonder what you're gonna do, what's gonna come next. It is extremely important that we are staying focused
Yeah,
on our agenda and what we want to accomplish.
it must be really interesting being also specifically looking after that business unit that's under such heavy
Mm.
disruption and innovation and change. So you're
Yes,
looking after that specific group that are probably going through one of the biggest transformations in the history that since
absolutely.
the internet, right? Uh,
Absolutely. And I,
yeah,
and I really love that because so actually beginning of last year I changed from a corporate roles. I was managing Europe people experience function, which is all the country HRs and also the Europe shared services actually. And then with that switch, I'm much closer to the business and the core of what we are doing at Nokia. So and I'm extremely passionate about, seeing people grow in their position as a leader, as their HR manager, making sure that they really, bring the best out of themselves. But at the same time, I really like to, as I mentioned before, like to strive for simplicity, looking at things, how we can do things differently, how we can become more efficient. And I think this role is really allowing me to kind of practice both.
yeah. I know you're both on a HR and an AI transformation journey in the
Yep.
same time, which you kind of have to be where we are now. Firstly, what sort of the level of maturity of the organization right now in terms of AI adoption?
Uh, I think, being a technology company, we should be at the forefront. I think we can still do more. There are specific areas, partially in HR as well, but also in the business where AI is, leading the way. But in other areas, we still have a lot to do and
Yeah.
transform.
Where are you seeing, like, when you chat with a team, the biggest opportunities in HR for AI to really add value?
Mm. Um, I think one of the area which I really would like to highlight, and this is also kind of connected to the growth one that we introduced about 1.5 years ago, our My Growth Portal, Skills Portal, which is connected to our talent marketplace. And here we are focusing very much currently on skill development and mapping the skills across the organization, where AI can be a very useful tool actually. Currently, we are more relying on machine learning,
Hmm.
but AI is also coming into the equation.
Yeah. Tell everyone a little bit more about Nokia My Growth Portal because I think it's super interesting what you're doing there.
Yeah, so we are a huge organization in 130 countries, so more than 80,000 people, as you can imagine. And there are numerous career opportunities across the whole organization. We also have an internal talent marketplace. But quite often people were just not aware of opportunities which are out there. So we did created the Migros portal, which is actually a space which brings the individual together with the opportunities. So based on your interest, based on your profile, you are getting daily recommendations for jobs which might be out there inside the company. So why would you go anywhere else if you have this opportunity internally?
Hmm.
Um, and if you are fine tuning your skills profile, so there is we also have a skill hub inside of My Growth Portal, and therefore the skill hub is actually taking information from your career with Nokia, so your CV, your learning opportunities which you were taken up, and any other jobs or any jobs which you were doing throughout your career with the company, and then it creates your skills profile based on that. You can also add skills because you might did a certification which was outside of the company, and then you can add those skills to your own skills profile. Um, and with that, you can actually enhance even more the this search engine and this recommendation to yourself. But it's also giving your manager actually a quite good overview of what kind of skills are available in his or her team.
Hmm. Wow. And probably good to explain to everyone that you built this in house, right?
Yes, this
So
is in.
yeah,
Yes,
why?
exactly.
So before we go any further, why the decision to build as opposed to buy or borrow?
Yeah, I think it was a long conversation around that, and the decision took some time to take whether it should be built internally or external. But we have the expertise in house, so being a technology firm, it's actually it's quite kind of given, and also because it's a huge company, so it might makes more sense for us to build this type of solutions instead of going out to the market and buying it.
Yeah.
But I would, there are very good solutions out there. So if any smaller companies would be, aspiring for something like this, I think it's still worth to buy a solution which is really suiting their needs.
Yeah. Um, how do you manage the skills taxonomy? Because if you're letting people add skills to their
Mm.
profiles, you may end up getting 5,000
Uh,
different.
so actually, this is something which is which we are having as a focus project, building a skills taxonomy and also defining the critical
Yeah.
skills.
Hmm.
And also, trying to close the skill gap because every organization is facing that and everyone is having it. So um, I wouldn't say we are there yet, and it's working perfectly. Currently, you can mainly, choose skills from a drop-down list.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course, you can also add there a few, but this needs to be validated.
Oh, okay. That's the way you get. Okay, glad you added that part. Otherwise, it just becomes. So at least, at
Yeah,
the very least, you have now. You're controlling it via here's, and then if you have some added, you can get someone to verify. Okay.
exactly,
Okay. Great. Okay.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Otherwise, it could get very crazy. Are
Yeah.
you like scraping sort of sentiment analysis within the portal in any way?
Um, what we are currently doing is really to the managers are only reviewing whether the
The
skills are,
managers. Okay.
yeah, yeah, um, at the right level. We are not able to identify it differently currently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. So, how many people at the moment do you have within the talent marketplace?
The adoption rate, well, the talent marketplace, yeah, the
Is that
migrant
the
portal.
same thing? Is
Yeah,
my is my?
it's not. No, it's two different.
Oh,
Actually, it's two
okay.
um, areas. So migrant portal is about. I was actually just checking the last 2 days the data. It's 60% take up
Wow.
rate.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's I have to say it really slowed down the attrition significantly for us because everyone is having much more opportunities at hand. So it's really good, to have a discussion with your line manager about your career, what you would like to achieve, and so on. I think these are very, very important conversations still today, and we are also putting a lot of energy into ensuring that managers are understanding how to have these conversations. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that our employees are having a very easy to use tool at their hands, which is helping them to, find the next opportunity. Plus, I was actually also just recently thinking about that, sometimes we hear about that women are probably less likely to apply for some
Yeah.
opportunities
Hmm.
where they are not like 100% match. With this, you are actually avoiding this, or you are actually helping them to see that there are opportunities out there which they might not yet be ready for, but based on their profile, this could be very
Hmm.
interesting ones to start with.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. To do that, and the way you communicate my growth portal, I'm sure you communicate in that way as well. That hey, we're not expecting
Yeah,
the finished article that you have to have all these things. The whole point is it's a development
it's a
opportunity.
development, exactly. And more people are using the more and more information we are also getting about our employees. I think there was a study done, sorry, I don't know exactly the dates when there was a post out there saying that LinkedIn probably knows more about your employees than your own company.
100%.
You do?
Yeah.
So this is something we try to build in-house to understand also our workforce fully. And also, we also try to understand what kind of skills we might need in the future, what kind of skills we might need leaders to be successful. So currently, in the project which I was just mentioning, which is not yet finished, so it's still in the development phase. We are also, talking about collecting information from the performance evaluation, which are talking about more the human skills, and how those human skills are relating to job success.
Yes. Yeah.
But it is very early stages yet to talk about, but something which we definitely are, starting to review and look at.
I think that's going to become. It's good to hear you're doing that because that's going to become more and more important, right? As
Mm,
technology starts to take on some of those tasks or skills, the
yeah,
power skills, human skills, soft skills, whatever you want to call them, they're going to become ever more important
exactly.
as we start to replace some of the manual work and some of the other skills can be done by AI
Yeah,
as well. So I think if companies are not prioritizing those power skills, because if you look at the challenges companies are facing, it isn't the technology. It's the culture, it's the transformation, it's the human element always,
absolutely.
which is the main thing. The technology does what it does,
Yeah,
as well. So we need to help develop and prepare our managers and our leaders with those skills to be
yeah,
able to do that. So I'm
yeah.
glad that you mentioned obviously the job opportunities that service, but how are you connecting learning opportunities within My Growth Portal?
Oh yeah. That's also a feature of my growth portal because if you are actually feeding in the information, what kind of next steps you would like to do in your career, then it is actually coming up with tailor-made learning paths and training recommendations. We are having a huge learning portal also internally, so there is access to courses which you would be able to take up.
Okay. And is that through external partners that can you plug in like a LinkedIn Learning into that and stuff like that?
There is
Or
LinkedIn Learning. There are some external partners. So I also like, sometimes you just get a book recommendation. So we also
yeah.
have some
Yeah.
pursue you,
Yeah,
you
why
know.
not? Exactly.
But yeah, because sometimes it's really good to read a book about it. Why not?
Yeah.
So there are external partners, and we are able to plug them in with this system.
Is it connected to like an LMS as well, or is that your own LMS again you built? Do you have a set?
Cornerstone.
Oh,
Yeah,
Cornerstone.
yeah.
So okay, so is that part powered by Cornerstone and then plugged into your?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
cool. It's just
Exactly.
interesting to understand like how
Yeah.
it all
How
works.
all the systems are
Yeah, right.
coming.
Especially because you built that part yourself. It's always difficult. No, it's not difficult. It's very everything's achievable, but you have to be very thoughtful about how that affects the user experience and the
Yes.
journey. Because you can just because you can plug all these things in doesn't mean.
It doesn't mean that people are going to like it. And I
Yeah.
also think, when we first launched it, everyone was so excited. We thought, oh, it's just gonna, you just don't even need to marketing it internally.
No.
It's just going to happen
Yeah.
overnight, like magic. Everyone is gonna love it. And it wasn't the case. You
Of
know,
course not. It's
you
a
really needed,
ongoing. Yeah.
exactly. You needed to put lots of effort into it, making people aware of that this is happening. And we are still doing it time to time. It's 60% adoption rate is already very good, but it can be more. But it's a journey, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So
There's no
we
end
need to
date.
make more and more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How
Exactly.
how are
And
you?
also the
Oh, cool. Sorry.
feature development, sorry, the feature development is also something which you need to always fine tune.
Yeah. Well, on that point, then, my next question was, how do you are you and the team already working on embedding generative AI into My Growth Portal so that you can start to have smart, co-pilots or the ability to create customized learning pathways, all of these amazing capabilities that we can leverage generative AI for.
So again, this is part of the critical skills program, actually how to
Okay.
enhance the portal. So we are not there yet, but there are already, a project built on this, how to make it work and what would be the best way.
Hmm.
Currently, what we were doing is less of the Gen AI path, but more of thinking about how we are enhancing skills internally even further, and how we are also getting to know the skills of our employees. And we on our internal talent market launched gigs.
Okay.
So besides job rotations, now there are gigs. So we have our own gig economy actually internally. Um, and here, people can apply for part-time roles, just maybe 1 day a week or 4 hours a week, little gigs, which they would be able to participate in a completely different department
Wow.
uh, next to their day-to-day activities. So if they want to enhance their skill or they want to find out whether, a new career or a new career path would be interesting for them, then they just apply for the gigs, they try it out, and they can still go back to their old job,
Yeah.
doing previous role. They don't need to switch immediately, and it's also so it's a very beneficial for the employees. It's also very, very good for the company because it really enables more agile way of working. For the employees, it's also, building more connections between teams, but also between, employees itself. And we are also finding out more and more about the skills of our employees
Mm.
this way.
What were some of the interesting insights that you and the team have taken away from that so far?
Um, we did a 6 months trial or piloting before launching it. Uh, And during this pilot, there was a huge interest, 5 times more than the gigs which were posted.
Wow. So there was 5 times more interest in the gig
In the
focus.
gig, exactly,
Wow. So it just
exactly.
shows the eagerness for growth and development
Hmm.
for people, right?
Yeah,
And I'm sure if you measured those people like a year from now and looked at the retention of those.
I'm sure it's going to be, yeah. So we're gonna measure.
Yeah,
We're
I know.
gonna measure. Yeah.
It's going to be way higher.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've seen companies have problems with this, and I'd love to understand how you approached it. I applied for a gig opportunity. How do you navigate that with their manager and their
So
leader? Because they're like, "Hey, you're taking all my talent away." Away.
yeah,
Like, what does that look like?
um, I think so far our experience is very positive. Actually, managers are less worried about the gig opportunities because it's not about taking away talent. It's not about, giving them away for full time for X months, but it's really just a few hours in a week,
Okay.
which we are talking about. And therefore, they are very willing to support the employees in most of the cases. I'm not saying that there was no any occasion when a manager said no to it, but either it has been a conversation with the employee that, this gig can happen or something similar can happen later, or or there was an understanding, there was some shifts in the, when the opportunity is going to start to just to accommodate
Yeah.
the request of the hosting manager.
So who's the approver in this process? Is it then it kind of gets flagged to the manager and then they make a decision, or is there
Yeah, yeah.
HR team
Yeah,
involved?
the HR team is not involved. We are trying to give for responsibility, but also accountability. It's the accountability of the managers
To
as
then
well.
have a conversation with that individual and
Yeah,
then
but if, we are only coming into the equation if there is a question mark or if there is an issue
yeah, no, I love
with
it. No, again, it's back to empowering, right?
absolutely.
This isn't the job of HR.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, our slogan is open, fearless, empowered. So these are our
Ah,
essentials. And
I
we are trying to kind of live up to it
100%.
all the way along.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that we haven't spoken about that we should know about in terms of the current work or things that I've missed when it comes to Growth Portal?
Hmm. I think we covered actually most of it, I would say.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for this year, looking ahead, then what's the priorities? Obviously, ongoing regarding what we
Yeah,
discussed, but what are some of the things that you're really excited about?
exactly. The critical skills one. You also would like to, besides just my growth portal, but also it's kind of related to that as well, leadership development further.
Hmm.
So we want to take it to the next step. We are, designing leaders' journeys. Last year we launched a technical career path, for example. So for people who doesn't want to become line managers, then what kind of career paths are out there, how they can
Nice.
progress further, what opportunities are there. We would like to extend it even further in different professions just to see, what else we might have out there.
What would be an example of some of the technical career paths that you identified?
Well, you might want to become, instead of a leader of big teams, a technical expert and maybe a globally recognized technical expert. And then what are the steps you need to take? What are the learnings you need to have to get there? What kind of maybe external speaking opportunities you need to take up on? So there are a lot of recommendations along the way how you will be able to achieve that and how to get there.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's not the same for everyone, but
of
at least
course.
you're kind of having, it's almost like having a coach on your side, helping you to decide what might be the next step.
Yeah, but because you don't want to retain. I mean, you need to retain that talent, right? Because these are people that probably been with the business for some time, have incredible wealth of knowledge and networks in the business, but don't want to be a leader, a director, a manager. Don't want to just focus in on that, being an expert in that one area. And most companies, which is I'm sure why you're doing it, don't have a career path, right, for those individuals, and they end up forcing themselves almost to become a leader or manager so they could get their next salary increase or
Next
job
salary
opportunity,
increase,
right?
next,
So I think personally, even for me in my previous companies, when I was I was a very high performing enterprise sales executive, I didn't really want to be a manager or a director. I ended up becoming, but if they had a career path
Mm.
for me to go down, that for me to be
That
focused
one.
on a very highly technical sales, area, and definitely would love to do speaking and training for others in the business and whatever that may look like. I think I would have been really excited about that
Yeah.
opportunity. So I'm glad you're doing that, because again, that's another retention tool as well, and also you retain that wealth of knowledge. It doesn't leave the business.
Exactly. And not everyone is leadership material. So not everyone is going to become a good leader. And we need to, accept that.
Yeah,
But they might be amazing technical people.
yeah,
And we really need to utilize their strengths, actually.
yeah. Um, Personally, as there's so much change happening, and you're having to personally upskill and reskill, what are some of the ways that you're upskilling yourself personally? What do you
Oh,
find that works,
God.
especially with AI and stuff like that coming out? Like, how do you stay up to date with all these changes?
Um, I'm actually so passionate about learning myself. So I do we are having so many learning opportunities also internally at the company. So there are AI courses which we are able to just participate on. There are just opportunities to attend some webinars as well internally and also externally. So I do go on a lot of conferences myself as a speaker, but sometimes also just to attend and listen to and understand. I do study always something. It's like, I'm a little bit of a studying junkie or growth junkie myself because I just love learning about new technology, new ways of working. I think right now it's also, culture is also on our mind, whether we need to renew that, and then, cultural transformations, business transformations. Um, one thing is very important in my view, is that we need to stay open-minded and always open for new learning and changes. I think change is constant here. And I also love to mentor, actually. I'm quite often signing up on mentoring relationships because I'm learning so much from mentoring myself.
Yeah,
So just talking to a younger generation, talking to other colleagues, maybe from other units, also internally, but also externally. I'm sometimes working with NGOs and I'm being part of a mentoring program, and that's always a learning opportunity for me.
yeah. It's interesting when we coach or teach, we get so much more like back ourselves, right? Because it kind of
Absolutely.
like ingrains it in
Yeah.
yourself as you're like, I always, anything I ever taught, I'm like, is it further ingraining it in in yourself? And then
Exactly.
sometimes you catch yourself going, am I even practicing what I preach right now as well? So it's a good reflection moment as well.
And I think also we are lucky because Nokia is having this coaching and mentoring culture. Actually, you also via My Growth Portal are able to find a coach
Oh, nice.
for yourself because we are having a requisition or a list of people inside of the tool. So we are really encouraging, and also our coaching and mentoring department is very much focusing on training as many leaders as possible to become coaches, so that we really embed this coaching style of leadership
Yeah.
inside the company.
I was wondering, bit of a random question, but I heard this the other day, and I've been thinking about it personally, and I wanted to
Okay.
ask you it. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
Interesting.
And this could, and I know I heard it, and it kind of I had the same reaction as you. It just took me back for a second. And this could be personal, it could be professional. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
I don't know. I'm never approaching anything from failing. I always think everything is gonna just go fine. Of
We're, we're,
course,
we're we're the
you have
same. We're the same.
I was just thinking, I don't know. I mean, if I want to do something, I just go and do it.
That's not normal. I mean, in a good way. I mean, like I'm like that. Like my co-founder's very much calculated and thoughtful, and I'm kind of like you. My reaction is normally I don't even think about it through that lens. I just go and do it, and I fail anyway, and I learn. But I don't see it as a failure. I see it as the you have to put the reps. You have to fail forward. You have to learn. So I don't even see it through the same lens. But most people, and that's why I think that question went viral. I think it went viral on LinkedIn and a few other platforms where it was like an entrepreneur sharing that. And he was
Hmm.
like, this is a question you should always ask yourself. And one of the things you realize is when you answer that question, 99% of the time, you can do it.
Exactly.
It's just you have that fear of failure that
Yeah,
hold most people back. But if you can overcome that and approach everything through a different lens of failure as a positive, uh,
absolutely.
um, then it changes. It personally for me, it changed my life. Like
Yeah.
looking at it through that lens. Like, who am I to start this podcast? I've never worked a day in HR in my entire life, right? And I've interviewed 1,000 HR leaders, all right, and people listen. Hundreds of thousands of people listen to the
Fantastic.
show, right? As well, but the reaction from everyone when I said I was going to start it, they were like, "Who's going to listen to you?" Right? Like you're going to fail, So you just kind of just have to ignore that and do it anyway.
And then what happens if you fail? I think it's if you never fail, you also don't learn. And I think the people who are the more successful probably in their life are the people who failed.
All the time, literally, like,
Exactly.
uh,
You need to fail to build this resilience
yeah,
and be wanting to go after your dreams and what you want to achieve.
yeah, and like, not to break the bubble for anyone listening, but no one cares about your failures. I mean, like,
Exactly.
people are so concerned that people will see them fail, or the perceived perception
Yes.
of it. That then, the truth is, no one's paying that much attention that you think they
Uh,
are to you.
It's,
Like,
it's like, oh, I mean, I'm saying to myself when I ever have this, little thing in my mind, like, but what will people say? Like, you are not that important.
yes,
I'm not
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
like,
so true. Like, people
why
think
do I
everyone's
do
watching and caring. No one cares.
it?
Literally. I had someone message me on LinkedIn the other day, and they were like, "Congratulations on your meteoric success and rise." Right? Because we gained over 100,000 followers in December, so it was pretty crazy. Like, my profile quadrupled in no, more than that in size, and I was like, my first reaction was, meteoric. If you call 10 years and 1,000 podcasts meteoric, so there was, like, no one. And again, it's a perfect example that person didn't see the 10 years of
Oh,
failure, the 10 years of learning and growth. They were like, oh, amazing overnight success.
yeah.
And this is someone who follows me that I know, right? And so no one really sees that, and no one pays attention. So the question you should be asking yourself is, what is the cost of me not doing it?
Exactly. Exactly. That's a very good point because if you are not doing it, then you just gave up immediately.
Yeah, you'll just be exactly where you were yesterday.
Exactly.
At least if I know I tried something, I failed, I learned something.
Mhm.
Not doing it, you just wake up the same place that you already was, right?
Exactly. And then if you imagine yourself in 10 years' time, do you still want to be at the same place?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now, from interviewing 1,000 of your peers and speaking to them every day, you will not survive long in HR.
Oh,
It's impossible. If you look at from when I started doing this 20 years ago, the skills and competencies required to be a HR leader, and also the functional expertise and just everything, you
mm,
will not, those HR leaders that are really thriving right now are the ones that have the growth mindset. That are constantly disrupting themselves. They're seeking discomfort. They're
yeah.
failing forward. They encourage it with their teams. They set boundaries, right? To be able to
Uh,
do that.
You need to have the strategic mindset as well, because I do see it more and more important. So you are responsible for, helping the leaders to create the culture, making sure that the right leaders are at the right place. But you also need to have the strategic mindset to be able to work with them and advise them in the direction.
100%. And then and the way that has been done has also evolved, right?
Yes.
And we're moving more and more of the ownership of a lot of these things we talk about to the business. HR shouldn't own culture, shouldn't own well-being, shouldn't
Yeah.
own, development. It should be those leaders, those managers, everyone's responsibility in the
Yeah.
organization. And that's a huge change from the traditional where we started, right?
Exactly.
Where leaders were really relying on HR to do all of this stuff that we were talking about. So what it means to be a leader and a manager has completely changed.
It's completely changed. It's a much bigger responsibility now.
100%. Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wasn't, I wasn't having conversations 15 years ago when I became a manager about well-being,
No.
right? Like,
No.
or
It's so high on the list right now.
yeah,
Everyone's really talking about and would like to understand.
no one said one of the key competencies during my manager training was leading with empathy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so all of these things that
Bring the numbers.
yeah, exactly. All of those things, or resilience, right? Like that is now something we need to develop because of the constant change. So we have to constantly be doing that. But anyway, I feel like that's the perfect way to end the show. Before I let you go, like, is there any parting HR advice, or advice you'd give to sort of those HR leaders of tomorrow, that'll be sitting in your seat one day, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh, okay. It's a good question. I'm not sure it's just for the HR leaders, but overall. So I think if you have a unique talent, and if you are unique in your way, then never give this up. Like, turn it into something meaningful, and make sure that you are, um, changing the way you work, and use it.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like for so many years, people that I know and me myself earlier tried to conform
Yeah,
to what I thought people wanted to see from me and the behaviors and what would help get me ahead, but is exhausting
it is.
to do that. And
Yourself.
when you lean into being yourself and the things that really give you energy,
Mm,
right, it kind of it lights a different type of fire underneath you, as well. But you have to be willing to walk away sometimes from situations that don't do that for you, which can be a little bit scary to do that, as well. But I love that. Like, be your true, authentic self and find organizations, an organization and team that fits you,
yeah,
and appreciates your diversity of thought, perspective, and what you bring to the table.
yeah. Very well said.
No, I mean, I was only saying because I've not many people say that advice, but it's really good advice that people don't really talk about, as much, because there's so many people I've even met in my career like that. After many years, I kind of finally discovered who they really were, and I realized they kind of had this sort of work persona that they kind of were bringing to the table. Like, one of my good friends, I always say, like, you have like work Colin and friend Colin, because he
Oh my
kind
God.
of feel like he has to.
That's exhausting.
Yeah. We speak about it often. I think many people do that because they and it's an unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and it's up to companies to also help create that environment where people feel like they psychologically safe to be able to be who they
Yeah,
are and be themselves, as
exactly.
well. Where can people connect with you if they want to reach out and say hi?
Via LinkedIn, I
Yeah,
think that's always
perfect.
a really good way to do so. So feel free to connect with me, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Now I apologize in advance for all the messages. So Chris,
I hope we can have a meaningful discussion then.
yeah, Chris, what have you done to my LinkedIn inbox, as well? But I appreciate you taking the time out. I'm glad we managed to connect, and congrats to you and the team on the journey so far. I know it's a journey, not a destination. And I wish you all the best until we next speak.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me. It was really, really enjoyable. So thank you. It's not
Hey,
just very professional, but also you are making it very enjoyable.
you gotta have fun. If you can't have fun, then what's the
Exactly.
point?
Exactly.
Can't
I agree.
can't take life too serious. Thank you so
I
much.
agree.